if you are here, you were somewhere on that journey to applying to graduate or professional school. Maybe you're just thinking about it, or maybe your applications are due tomorrow. I don't know. But I want you to think about an image that comes to mind when you envision writing your personal statements or statements of purpose for graduate or professional school. Got an image in your head? Is this what it's like? You recline on a soft pillow, you channel good energy, you think of your academic experiences and life experiences, and they all just kind of flow forth into this beautiful personal statement. Is that how it usually works? No, it does not work that way for anyone. Applying to graduate school or professional school can be stressful. There's a lot of pressure. There's pressure to stand out in a competitive field. I hope by the time you leave tonight, you're feeling less pressure, less anxiety, and more confident about what you can produce to meet that goal. So, what I find helpful when faced with a big writing task is to break that task into more manageable segments or units or tasks. So, I'm going to talk to you tonight about how to break down this process of writing a personal statement into researching, brainstorming, drafting, revising, and editing. And I'm going to give you some tips for each step in that process. So we'll begin with researching. While I have some water. Okay, so before you begin filling out forms, before you open that Word document to start composing your personal statement, it makes sense to do a little bit of research about the field you're entering, the programs you're applying to, and the applications you'll be filling out. Let's go through those one by one. The field that you are entering, learn as much as you possibly can. Why? Because your readers, the people who will admit you into school, they want to know that you know what you're getting yourself into. And it will show if you don't. So what are some of the things you need to think about? One, what are the values and practices and methods of research and ways of communicating that characterize your field or discipline? For an example, if you are applying to nursing school, you should know what evidence-based practices, how nurses and researchers are using it to influence how they interact with patients. That's something you should know. Something else you need to think about is what are the specialties or areas of focus or guiding theories in your particular field. So if you are applying to graduate school in psychology, you need to know the difference between a program with a counseling focus and a program with a clinical focus. Those things are different. Finally, you need to know what the major trends or issues or controversies in the field are right now. So any of you going into health-related professions should know what's going on with electronic medical records, what the pros and cons are, and the conversations are. Maybe you have your own opinion about it. You may not write about the details of these particular things you find, but if you have a solid grounding and understanding of your field, that's going to show when you go to write your personal statement. The next thing you need to think about is the particular schools you're applying to. And depending on what kind of application you're doing, you may or may not talk about these specific schools in your application. But it's important to know about them because the details you choose to share about yourself and your life should show that you will be a good fit for these programs. So even if you never mention the name of the school, what you choose to share about yourself should show, I'm going to fit in well here. So think about, what is this program known for? What are the areas of specialty that are available to me if I go to this program? And am I actually interested in those? Who are the faculty members? What are they researching? These are the people who are going to be teaching you, who are going to be mentoring you. Are you interested in what they're interested in? And what campus or program resources, such as research facilities or service opportunities or international exchange programs, what interests you? Once you've done that research, you're ready to look at the application itself. And there are different kinds of application essays. The first thing to think about is whether you are expected to write a tailored personal statement for each program you're applying to, in which case you are going to talk about the specific programs and why you're interested in them and why you fit in well, or whether you're going to be submitting an application to a general application service. And this is often the case for medical school, dental school, other professional schools. You'll be submitting a general application to a service. In which case you won't mention specific schools, but you still can kind of secretly target those programs you're most interested in by choosing what to talk about yourself. You also want to ask, is the essay prompt open-ended or directive? What I mean by that, open-ended might be something like, tell us about yourself, or tell us why you're interested in a career in dentistry, right? You can choose from a lot of life experience in your response to those open-ended questions. But some programs have more directive questions. They might say something like, tell us that you know what the challenges facing physical therapists are right now, and show us that you're prepared to work with diverse clients in a diverse array of settings, right? Whatever the case is, you need to make sure that you address each aspect of the prompt, or prompts, that are given to you. You might have also noticed that sometimes applications ask for a personal statement, sometimes they ask for a statement of purpose. There is a slight difference in these two things. Personal statements tend to focus more on autobiographical or life experience, and they tend to be formatted in sort of chronological order. Whereas statements of purpose tend to focus much more on your academic experience, your research interests, and what you see yourself doing in the graduate or professional school. So make note of that difference when you're looking at the applications. Finally, you should ask yourself, or you should find out what the word or character limit is. Most personal statements are 1 to 2 pages. That's not a lot of space, so you want to be realistic about what you can expect to accomplish and say in that short amount of space or time. So you might be wondering, okay, how do I find answers to these things? If I don't know the answers to those things you just told me to find, where do I look? And I encourage you to consider human resources, online resources, and library resources. Talk to your advisor, talk to your professors. Usually the programs you're applying to have a contact person that you can call up and ask questions. Look online at the program websites, at the university websites for where those programs are. There are many websites dedicated to helping students who are in the very same situation you are right now, which is applying to graduate or professional school. Additionally, libraries can be a great resource. I know ours have manuals on writing application essays. They're the place to go and look at discipline-specific journals to get a sense of what's going on in your field. And the librarians themselves would be happy to help you find any of this information. Okay, so once you've dug up all that background information, you are ready to start brainstorming. And by brainstorming, I mean figuring out what information it is that you want to include in your personal statement. So where do you start? Got a big, long list for you of characteristics that are associated with success in graduate school. I'm not going to read through them all, but this covers everything from ambition to time management skills to appreciation of diversity. What you need to figure out is, what are the people who are making the decision whether to admit you or not? What are they looking for? What qualities are most important to them? Right? If you don't know, surf the website for keywords. Talk to your advisor and your professors. What makes a good doctor, or psychologist, or dentist, or forensic scientist? Figure out what those qualities are. Once you've picked 3 to 5 of them, start listing. All right, start listing the experiences that you have had that you can use as evidence that you possess those qualities. So for instance, if you think self-discipline is really important to the people who are going to be choosing who to admit, You might consider, okay, I've run a marathon, right? I had to train. This took a lot of self-discipline. Or maybe I took a really heavy course load for 3 semesters in a row, and I still maintained a high GPA. If you think communication skills are really important, you might think, okay, I've been writing the alumni newsletter for my sorority every month. That takes communication. Or I helped plan an alternative spring break trip, and I had to work with a team to make this happen. That took communication. If compassion is important, as it will be in many of these programs, you might consider what kind of service activities you've participated in. Have you gone on alternative spring break trips? Have you volunteered at a local clinic? Maybe you're a camp counselor and you still keep in touch with some of your campers. These are all the kinds of experiences you can use to provide evidence that you possess the skills and the qualities that committees are looking for. Another approach is to free write in response to common questions that appear or that you're expected to answer in personal statements. So these include, why do you want to become a physician assistant or nurse or whatever it is you're applying to school for? What life experiences have led you to this career choice? How have your extracurricular or work or volunteer activities shaped you as a person? What are your future goals, plans? What have you done to demonstrate your interest in this profession or discipline? So a couple things to keep in mind when you're free writing in response to these questions. When I say free write, I mean free write. You don't have to worry about word limit. Just write what comes to mind. Get some words on paper. One thing to keep in mind, though, is not to give generic answers. It's easy to say, I want to be a physician assistant because I want to help people. Guess what? So does everyone else in this room and everyone who's applying to school. Okay? So you might want to think about, why do I want to be a physician assistant instead of a doctor or nurse? Why this particular field? Why am I a good fit for it? Okay? Another thing to keep in mind is not to spend too much time in your childhood. You can mention stories, but don't dwell there for too long because you want your readers to envision you as a fully formed, mature adult capable of taking on graduate studies. You don't want them to see you as a child. Additionally, it is possible to overshare. All right, so saying you want to become a counselor because lots of people in your family deal with mental illness and you want to help them, that might make the committee question whether you have enough stability in your life to take on rigorous graduate studies. So consider what you choose to share and what not to share. Okay, so once you have all of this, these notes taken, these ideas, it's time to start assembling them into a personal statement. You're ready to draft. I recommend that you start the drafting process actually by making an outline. And most personal statements have an introduction, 3 to 5 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. Some take a different form depending on what the prompt is. You'll need to decide, but outline. Let's talk a little bit about each of these components. In your introduction, you want to begin with an attention getter. Something that captivates the reader and tells them something about you. I encourage you not to be gimmicky here. Usually it's not a good idea to start with kind of a joke. What I often recommend is starting with a scenario or a short story from your life that tells the readers something about who you are and how you came to this decision to enter this field or profession. And as you write this story, you want to include details that give insight into your personality and your skill set and your interests. In particular, those skills and personality traits that they're going to want to see you use in your studies and in your profession. Avoid stories that your readers will find cliche or common. And I'm hoping that our panel a little bit later will give some tips as to the things that they see a lot of and get tired of seeing. So this is one of the best introductions I've come across. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. It's something you can go back and look at later. But I am going to read you the first couple of sentences to show how this student gets her reader's attention. This is actually a current medical student who was writing her residency school applications, but she did a great job. And she started, I reached out of my sleeping bag to turn off the 3:40 a.m. alarm. I dreaded emerging, even though I slept in my clothes to insulate myself from the icy air. I had spent the previous 9 days trekking in the Nepalese Himalayas, and the elevation, long days, and lack of showers were taking a toll. So immediately she grounds us in a strange and interesting experience. We want to know more. We want to know what she's up to, what she's doing. She goes on and she chooses great details to show us that she has stamina, that she's interested in diversity. She reveals, by talking about this experience, that she has the qualities that will make her a good doctor. And she ends, in retrospect, Nepal was one of many life experiences that has matured, humbled, and intellectually challenged me, and ultimately prepared me for a vocation in obstetrics and gynecology. So she connects that experience to the field that she has chosen to enter. One thing I want to say is that you don't have to have an exotic overseas experience to have a good story. Okay? In fact, many students have had study abroad experiences or mission trip experiences. Try to think about the experiences you have that are really unique to you. So maybe you grew up in a sort of unconventional family situation, and you can draw something from that. Maybe you had a really unique internship experience and had a sort of profound moment in that internship. Maybe you had to support yourself through school, and your job taught you something intriguing. Or maybe you have a hobby that's unusual that you could use to reveal something about yourself. So think about what makes you, what makes you different, and start there. When it comes to writing your body paragraphs, each paragraph should have a clear focus or topic, such as an internship experience or relevant coursework or research interests. As you talk about these things, it's really important to tell your reader what you learned or got out of these experiences. Not just that you had them, but what they taught you. And how you will apply that knowledge or insight to the field you're entering. Either to being a student or to being whatever profession it is that you are choosing. All right, time to write the conclusion. Conclusions are hard. It's hard to know what to say. You've already put down your heart and soul, right? The temptation might be to simply restate what you've already said. I encourage you not to do that. If you have not talked about your future goals yet, this is a nice place to do that. In any case, it's a really nice touch to end by explaining what you hope to contribute to the program, the field, and the broader community if you're accepted. All right, show what you plan to give. All right, you have a draft, yay, but it's not over yet. All right, I strongly recommend taking time to revise, if at all possible. Set aside that personal statement for a few days. Let your head clear, then you can approach it with fresh eyes. And the first thing I recommend that you look for in the revision process are 7 pitfalls. All right. Working in the Writing Center and having worked with students for the past few years as a teacher on their personal statements, I have seen these pitfalls over and over and over again. I'm going to try to help you avoid them. All right. Any Star Wars fans you'll recognize this as the pit of Khartoum. There are many pits you can fall into when writing these personal statements. The first and most common one I see is vague generalizations. Statements like, psychologists do important work in the world. All right? That does not tell me anything about the person who is applying. All right, so how do we fix this problem? How do we turn it into something better? As you read through what you've written, I encourage you to interrogate each sentence, to ask, why? How so? In what way? What did I really mean when I said that? Can I be more specific? If at all possible, use specific examples and details to show us what you mean. So instead of saying psychologists do important work in the world, you can say something like, my experience volunteering with an after-school program for young Ethiopian refugees in my community revealed the need for psychologists with cross-cultural expertise. That tells us something about the person applying and what kind of important work they think psychologists are doing in this world. I also see a lot of unsupported claims. I'm a highly organized person with good time management skills. Anyone can say that. Doesn't mean they actually possess those skills, right? So how do you convince the reader that you do possess those skills? Give concrete examples, snapshots, anecdotes. Whenever possible, show instead of telling. You won't have to say I have good time management skills if you show it. So a better option would be to write something like, during my junior year of college, I took a full course load, worked 12 hours a week as a grocery store cashier, and served as treasurer of my fraternity. Balancing these responsibilities required organization, discipline, and time management skills. That student has earned the right to say he has those qualities. Okay. I also see a lot of cliches. For as long as I can remember, I have had a passion for helping people. You might really mean that. The problem is, for as long as I can remember is a cliche, that word passion is the most overused word I see, second only to helping people. Those two things I see a lot. I tell students, try to limit the use of passion to one instance. And instead of saying you help people, show how you help people. All right, so my advice when dealing with cliches is to make your description so specific that they could only apply to you. Right? When you're writing, make sure your sentences are things that only you can say. That any old candidate couldn't just write them in their personal statements. Use a tone that conveys sincerity and honesty. And never say something just because you think that's what the committee is expecting to hear. Okay? Be honest about what's driving you. So this is a much better option than saying I have a passion for helping people. In fact, this shows that this person has a passion for helping people without that person having to say it. As a pain clinic volunteer, I met a patient whose chronic pain confined her to a wheelchair. After 2 months of manual therapy and strengthening exercises, I saw her walk into the clinic unassisted. This powerful moment solidified my interest in working with patients with chronic pain. The next problem I see, not quite as frequently, but sometimes, is audience unawareness. As I read this example, I want you to think about what might be wrong with these sentences. The National Research Council highly ranks Penn State University's graduate program in kinesiology. I am quite impressed with the work its faculty is doing in biomechanics. What's the problem? One problem is that the writer is telling the readers what they already know. These are faculty members in this program. They know their program is highly ranked. They don't need to be told that. That's wasted space in which you could be telling the reader something about yourself. Additionally, by saying, I'm impressed with the work this faculty is doing, you are suggesting that you are in a position to judge the work they are doing, which you are not. All right, so do not tell your readers what they already know. Do not inadvertently position yourself as a superior to your readers. Instead, focus on how you would fit into or contribute to the program you're hoping to enter. So, say something like this. If admitted to your program, I would like to continue exploring the connection between biomechanics and disease prevention under the mentorship of Dr. Ginger Gottschall. All right, no tonal problems there. Another issue I occasionally come across, this is sort of related to the last one, is egocentricity. So, my grandfather and my father were both renowned physicians in my community. I am eager to fulfill my destiny by continuing that legacy. This student makes it sound like it's all about him, rather than what he has to offer, what he has to give, or what he wants to learn. So, how do we change that? Also could be a she. Instead of talking about what you hope your program will give you, talk about what you hope to offer the program and what you hope to offer people in general. Be humble. Don't overuse I and me. So, a much better option for that student would be to write something like, my father and grandfather, both respected physicians in my small town, taught me the importance of taking time to develop rapport and intimacy with patients. I hope to continue their legacy of compassionate care. Still mentions that their legacies in this field, but much more humble and much more outward focused. The final pitfalls I want to mention to you are the life story and resume traps. Saying something like, prior to my freshman year at JMU, I went on a mission trip to the Dominican Republic. For the past 2 years, I've interned at the Boys Girls Club, which has given me the opportunity to work with at-risk youth. This year, my department gave me the prestigious Alfred Johnson Service Award. It's just a list. Keep in mind, your readers are going to see your resume, so you don't need to tell them everything on your resume once again. Additionally, you do not have time to tell them your whole life story. So you will have to select a few key experiences or events to explain their significance and to talk about how you will apply those experiences to graduate school or professional school in the field you're entering. Convey information that your readers won't know just by reading your resume. Go beyond what they'll know when they read your resume. Okay, once you have fixed any of these issues, get someone else to read your paper. Someone you trust, someone who's going to be honest with you, preferably someone who is a good writer. Your advisor might be a good person to visit. Also, the University Writing Center loves to work with students on their personal statements. We do it all the time. So I would love to see you in the Writing Center and would be happy to look over what you got with you. And then go back and revise again based on how that person reacts to what they read. Final stage, almost there, editing, right? Even after you've made those changes, it's still important to take time to go back through and to polish. Because if you turn in an essay that is sloppily written or full of errors, that might convey that you are a person who is lazy, who's imprecise, even if you're not, right? So you want to go back and proofread. First thing you want to do is condense each sentence to its clearest, simplest, most direct form. And sentences that are clearly written tend to have one simple active verb and not a lot of prepositional phrase strings. So let's look at how I would change this wordy sentence. It is my deepest hope that you will give full consideration to my application with an understanding of the challenges I experienced due to poor health as outlined in this paragraph. Wordy, hard to understand. You could simply say, please consider these challenges as you review my application. Same idea, much simpler. Next thing to do is to look for casual wording. You're not having a conversation, and even though this is a document in which you reveal lots of personal things about yourself, this is actually a formal piece of writing. So you want to go through and take sentences like this one. This program is really exciting to me because I've always liked hanging out with large animals, right? Wording like really exciting and hanging out with, it's a little too casual. You might replace it with something like this. I would value the opportunity to work with large animals. You also want to cut unnecessary adjectives, adverbs, and intensifiers. And oftentimes adverbs and adjectives are unnecessary. And not only unnecessary, they can make you sound dramatic, sometimes insincere. So take, for instance, this sentence. I would be extremely honored to attend your prestigious program, right? That makes the writer sound like they're being overly flattering. Instead, just say, I would be honored to enroll in the Master's in Nursing program at James Madison University. Simpler, more direct, and better overall. Finally, read your personal statement out loud, looking and listening for spelling and grammar errors, redundancies, and those could be redundancies in wording or in sentence structure, or even the way you begin your paragraphs. Make sure you don't start all your paragraphs with the same word, especially not I. All right. Confusing wording, wordy or clunky sentences, and change those things. This would be a great point, once again, to visit the University Writing Center. And we're happy to work with you at any point in this process, whether you're brainstorming or you've got a first draft or you're almost ready to turn that thing in and you need some help just going through proofreading. So if you go to our website, www.jmu.edu/UWC, you can click the Make an Appointment link. We'd love to see you there.